Hello everyone, welcome to the LeverX webinar series, a free educational service offered to SAP customers to inform and demonstrate SAP functionality and industry best practices to improve your business performance. Our webinar today is entitled Securing PLM Data, What's in Your Toolbox? During this webinar, jointly sponsored by Next Labs and LeverX, you will learn the business drivers for SAP data security and understand the different SAP information controls that you can leverage for data security. My name is Alan Mendel, Vice President at LeverX, and I will be the moderator for today's webinar. Before we begin our topic, let me briefly introduce you to LeverX. LeverX helps companies increase business value by leveraging existing investments in SAP solutions.
Okay, thank you very much, Alan. Again, my name is Eric Stite. I'm VP of Services. What I want to start out with today is talk a little bit, just an overview before we go into discussion on the Next Labs. I'll talk about the typical business drivers for security, what current companies are looking at as what they need to secure and security options and issues and hurdles that they're facing. I'll talk about the typical data objects to be secured in the PLM space. So we'll kind of cover what are those typical objects. We'll look at the authorization toolbox, what's available in standard SAP. So we'll talk about roles, access control management, auth groups, and custom options. And then we'll do a little bit of a deep dive on the SAP DMS authorizations. And why we want to focus there is because DMS has a high level of IP and high level of requirements for controlling access. Okay. When we talk about business drivers, we look at companies that are doing business across the globe, and you need to be able to restrict your access to your data and tighten it down for a variety of reasons. This includes restricting access to your specific intellectual property. So if you're developing new things, you want to restrict the access to that to make sure that only certain people can gain access to that. You might be developing products for military or government where you have to deal with ITAR or export control, and there's a high level of compliance that needs to ensure that you only grant very specific individuals access to that data. You might have contractual obligations where maybe you're a subcontractor in the electronics area where you're getting designs and data from your customers that you need to ensure that only specific people have access to that data.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you and good morning, everyone, for joining us today for this webinar. Let me first introduce Next Labs to you all. As Eric mentioned, Next Labs provides information risk management solutions to a lot of different global enterprises. It helps organizations preserve the confidential data and prevent data loss and ensure compliance across multiple enterprise systems. And the SAP Entitlement Manager, the one which I will be talking about today, is a SAP business endorsed solution for information risk management. And it's based on extended markup language and attribute-based access control mechanisms, which I'll be going into deeper in my presentation today. So to start with and to recap what Eric just went through in detail, these are all these different tools you have in your toolbox to make sure that your data is being provided proper access controls, and you make sure that the right users have access to the right amount of data. There are rudimentary and basic ways of segregating access by using physical segregation, multiple instances, or client partitions, to specific and very fine-grained ways of controlling access through context-based access controls or attribute-based access controls. And if everything fails, there is custom development, which means that you are writing additional code, custom code, and custom authorization objects in all your standard or custom transactions. So let's look at how these all different access methods are scaled on two different scales. One is how systematic these these access controls are when they are actually implemented, whether it's a manual process to determine who will get access to it or who wouldn't, and how the administration process works. Is it a runtime granting permission, or is it a granting permission that is determined ahead of time and it's only implemented during the runtime? So all these both are important in the sense that one, when you're determining how we should provide access or who provides access, it should be a more systemic or a software determined way of providing access, because that removes the duty of who has access to providing, who has authorization to provide access to people, and whether they are providing access to the right people or not.